I'm absolutely chuffed and absolutely excited to announce that we're starting our political science batch this week. So, if you've been enjoying my lectures, if you think that these lectures are adding value to your answer writing, if you think that our notes which we share are good enough, then this is the right time for you to join our PSIR batch. And the registrations will begin from today itself for the batch which starts. You can at this moment also note down my phone number and my email ID. I'm also typing it in the chat box. Okay. Anybody who has attended, this is their first lecture, do not worry because the rest of the lectures will be shared with you because you're a part of our mailing list. So if you're a part of our mailing list, all the lectures will be shared with you. You can directly go to our LMS and watch the free resources from there. At the same time, you also get notifications on WhatsApp now. So don't worry, everything is available to you. The previous, anybody who's, missed the previous sessions or the previous master classes, they are available on YouTube also, by the way. There are, I think, 2 to 3 lectures on PSIR available on YouTube as well. And then, of course, just go to our LMS, Learning Management System. You can definitely log in there. You can sign in there and you can watch all the free resources from there as well. That is not a problem. Okay. So I'm in the chat box. I am noting down my phone number. That is 844-714-2928. Yes, I'll be sharing the LMS link also very soon. My email ID is rohan.dange29@gmail.com. Okay, and let me also share the LMS with you, the LMS link. I've shared the LMS link for everybody's per user. What you can do is, it has a lot of free resources. Even the entire lecture plan for political science course is vividly and very descriptively mentioned over there. So you can visit the LMS link. You can visit, it has essay courses also. Go to that and find yourself having access to quality resources. Anybody who has doubt regarding the registration process, they can reach out to our team. But I have also shared my personal details, my personal contact details. You can reach out to me today and tomorrow and on Tuesday as well. I will definitely be more than obliged to answer your calls. If I'm not answering your call or if I'm not answering your text, then that means that, I will get back to you because I'm in a lecture or I may be conducting a interview of a personality. Right. So if I start preparing for PSR for 2027 attempt, will I be able to clear the exam, please? Rajkumar, with all due respect, if I was such an Nostradamus, if I was somebody who was so, who could predict the future with so much certainty, then I also would have been teaching in Columbia University now. Right. With all due respect. I don't know. I don't know whether you will crack the exam or not. All I know is that we can give our best. Anybody who tells you that join this course and you will sail through, you will ace, pass the exam, or so many questions were asked in the exam from our courses, they are simply lying to you on your face. If a coaching institute claims that in an optional, in prelims, in GS, in essay, that so many number of questions have appeared from their coaching manuals, it is not truth. First of all, let me debunk some truths, some myths here. For example, if I talk about zero carbon buildings or carbon neutrality, and if we post something on Roundtable about that, right? UPSC would ask, what is carbon neutrality? What are the data points that refer to India's efforts towards carbon neutrality? And what is India's contribution towards clean development mechanisms? We had a simple note on carbon neutrality with a definition. But as a coaching institute, you are tempted to do what? You are tempted to claim that question as yours. Whereas you never talked about the data points associated with carbon neutrality. There is nothing on your website which talks about clean development mechanisms and net zero carbon emissions. Nothing. And yet you claim it. That is the first way that the coaching institutes claim. The second way coaching institutes claim their credibility is by having toppers interviews and topper scores. I can tell you that in a topper's marks, not just one coaching institute or one teacher will have contributions to make. It is a combination of everything. And most of all, it boils down to your hard work. And most of all, it boils down to who gave you feedback for your answers and who sat with you and discussed the nitty gritties, the details, the nuances of the subject. It is not about who contributed directly, right? So, in this exam, what has happened is that a lot of hype and a lot of euphoria has been created because we carry that colonial hangover and colonial mindset of the Indian civil services given to us by the Britishers. But long story short, it is not a tough exam. First, second of all, anything that the coaching manuals and institutions mention, majority of the things are just to attract. So because it's a commercial endeavor, there is nothing wrong in business and commerce. We are also doing the same, but there is an honest way and there is a very sincere way to do it. The insincere way to do it is to trap students by telling them that you join our courses, questions will appear from our manuals, and you will be definitely cracking the exam. If somebody is showing you the stars, then they better have strong foundations to deliver those stars to you. UPSC is a very unpredictable exam. How can anybody guarantee success in the exam? It's Russian roulette, right? You're placing your bets. The best of the, in my opinion, if I have to tell you, that it is so unpredictable that you cannot predict the outcome. There are so many people. Myself, I feel that I should have been in the Indian Foreign Service. And I feel that I should have been in the Indian Foreign Service for the simple reason that I understand the, one can say, the finer nuances of India's foreign policy. I speak well, my elocution is impeccable, and yet I am not in the services. Whereas you'll find a lot of people who do not have command over diction, neither do they have command over India's foreign policy, neither do they have a foundational understanding of how diplomacy is conducted, and yet they are part of the governing structure. Suffice to say, or it means to say, that the selection procedure is highly subjective and it can throw any kind of result at you. So at times I have seen students who have, one can, at times you will see that students who are far better off than you, they are out of the list, but you are in the list. So nobody can predict. I can only tell you, join the PSIR batch. And why am I conducting these batches? Why am I conducting these master classes? I'm conducting these master classes so that everybody understands the philosophy of teaching at Roundtable IAS. We just don't stick to the syllabus. We go above and beyond the demand of the subject. Therefore, I urge all of you to start visiting our website, start visiting our LMS, start watching free lectures, start going through the free resources. Do it today, tomorrow, and you have enough, one can say, access to me to ask any questions for clarifications. You will receive a call from our team as well, right? And register only when you're absolutely sure. But if you ask me, if I register, will I be able to clear the exam? The unfortunate truth is that I don't know much about my own life. I don't know where I'll go, where I'll be in my life 1 year down the line. And like me, there are umpteen number of people. If you're absolutely honest with you, even you don't know. Okay. All we know is, yes, we are here to complete the course. Yes, here we are to make sure that you can write answers. See, anybody who wants to join our Roundtable PSR classes, I have to tell you that you join the classes, there will be a lot of pain. I'm going to conduct answer writing boot camps. That is what separates us from the rest of the batches, that we will show you how to write, and we will show you means we will make you, and if you don't write, then I can't help you, right? Then you cannot claim that I joined the institute but I could not clear. You have to also be ready for hard work. You have to be also ready for honesty and sincerity. I am going to personally manage your preparation, each candidate. I am going to provide you enough mentorship as long as you are ready to contribute with your own hard work. If you're not going to work hard, then I honestly cannot do much about it. Okay, that's one thing. Second, if you do not crack the exam, then what will happen? Have you ever thought about it? Think about it once, that if you don't crack the exam, okay, what will happen? I'm going to talk about everything, about bureaucracy, about protest. Therefore, today's lecture is highly important. Just keep paying attention. It is a goldmine of information and theory centered around what's happened in the country in the last 1 week. Okay. If you don't crack the exam, 99.99% people do not become IS. You know that, I know that. This is not discovery to you. The next question that needs to be answered is, if so many UPSC negatives are there, if especially today, where are they going to be absorbed? Is the private sector good enough and large enough to absorb so many candidates as freshers, as their employees? Of course not. We're witnessing a huge and a unfortunate slowdown and the plummeting of the Indian economy today. Indian economy is in a deep spiral, downward spiral. On top of that, if you see, IT sector has contributed the most to India's GDP. That IT sector itself is registering negative growths. It is not hiring people. On top of that, the service sector industry, including the tech industry, is now going to gallop forward and gulp down a lot of jobs on account of AI, machine learning, right? So what will happen to you if you don't crack the exam? That is my question. If you crack the exam, great. Let's party. But if you do not crack the exam, then what happens to you? The answer to that, stay tuned in today's lecture, is going to come very soon. And I'm going to give you a very, very concrete answer. I'm not going to serve you platitudes like, oh, you should work hard. Oh, there is always hope. Oh, जो मेहनत करते हैं उनकी कभी हार नहीं होती. मैं वो फालतू बातें आपके साथ नहीं करने वाला हूं. I will tell you exactly what happens to a candidate, to a sincere, honest candidate who has worked all his hard all his life and yet could not crack the exam. I will tell you about UPSC and how UPSC is also committing a fraud on the students. How UPSC is also insincere with the students. And as a student, is there hope left for you? Yes. Are there ways out of it? Yes. And what can you do about it? We're going to talk about that as well. So if I have your permission, I'll start the lecture today. And trust me, in today's lecture, I'm going to break down everything for you. Do not skip the lecture even for a moment. I can see that there has been a long message from Pataskar who says that I have many friends who are also preparing for services, and several students doubt whether the Indian bureaucracy system, which is called as a stream, is indeed trustworthy. So basically, there is a lot of reservation about it. Amongst my friend circle, the students who are losing hope in the country system, democracy, many are doubting an influential career worth the effort. I will solve all those doubts for you today. I feel it duty bound towards my students. How many attempts did you try and how did the interviews go? Maybe in the future classes I will talk about it, or maybe even today. If we have time, I'll definitely would like to share my interview experiences with you. I have been to 3 interviews. Okay. I have given 7 attempts. I have cracked all the 7 prelims. Out of the 7 prelims, I have cracked 4 mains. But I could not appear for one interview because I was already in a job, and unfortunately, because of certain events, I could not get the leave to process it. So 4 mains, but I could not, as I said, could not appear for 4 mains cleared. 7 mains written, 4 mains cleared, but I could not appear for all 4 mains. I appeared for 3 interviews. Okay. So my story, like me, there are many other stories which can either motivate you or demotivate you. But yes, once I have time, either today or going forward in the future lectures, I'll definitely share everything with you. You guys, you have complete clarity, and you have complete access, and you have absolute all rights. At least on Roundtable IAS, you have the rights to ask for accountability and to ask questions. I don't know about what happens beyond this space, or maybe I do. And what I know, I'm going to share it with you today. I want everybody to answer the next question now. Everybody. How many of you are cockroaches? Say yes if you are. Say no if you are not. Rochelle is not a cockroach. I want everybody to answer. Biswa is also not a cockroach. Sarjan is a cockroach. I want everybody to answer. Rohit is not a cockroach. Pramita is not a cockroach. Mishti is also not a cockroach. Okay. Others are choosing not to answer. Well, okay then. If you don't want wish to answer, completely your choice. We have witnessed student protest in India. And there has been a lot of questions surrounding politics, protests. Correct? The lecture today is about what is politics. And the lecture today is about the anatomy of a protest. What is protest? Okay. Why? Because we are the students of political science. Whether you are a cockroach or not, whether you are a student or not, whether you support the protest or not, whether you were the one demanding resignation or not, it does not matter. What matters is the questions which were raised, which expose how Indians think about political participation and the word politics. So, at the outset, let me start by telling you that politics is a beautiful word. There is nothing wrong with politics. The dictionary definition of politics, and I'm again, before I launch deep into this lecture, let me tell you, although the context of today's lecture is students' protest and the Cockroach Janta Party, the subject is going to be political science. Political science, dissent, protests, and democracy. And theory is going to be shared with you. I am not interested in opinions. I am interested in only the theory. Yes, we are going to interlink everything. When you talk about politics in bare terms, in a layman's language, politics is the art, science, the skill, and the craft, and the act of governing people. Okay. Now, why do you need to govern people? Okay. You need to govern people is because, let me break it down for you. There are so many people who are attending the lecture today. So, if Rohan is confronting, I have told you this in the previous lectures also, if you have attended the lectures. If Rohan is against a gorilla in a room, the gorilla will kill Rohan. If there are two Rohans and two gorillas, even then two gorillas will kill Rohan. If there are three Rohans and three gorillas, then even then three gorillas will kill three Rohans. If there are 100 Rohans and 100 gorillas, in that case, 100 Rohans will escape out of the room and the gorillas would not be able to kill 100 Rohans. Why? Because we are not animals. Because we in a group can act in a strategic, well coordinated, and self fulfilling manner. 100 Rohans, when they get together, they will build a strategy. They will use the power of unity. They will use the power of numbers. And they will find an exit to ensure least number of casualties. You put 1,000 gorillas or you put 1,000 tigers in an A.R. Rahman concert. What will happen? Or in a, you know, any these guys, you guys these days are attend different concerts, I guess, Aniruddha or maybe Karan Aujla. I don't know. If you put 1,000 gorillas in that concert, they will kill each other and they will kill the artist also. Right? But then what happens is that when you put, one second. When there are so many people attending a concert, People. I'm not talking about animals. When there are so many people attending a concert, what happens? What happens is that the concert goes smoothly. All of us have cars, but we don't kill each other on the road. Like, at least not intentionally. Why? Because there is something that makes us human beings. As human beings, we are not only capable of ruling, we are capable of being ruled also. We can be guided, directed also. We can be obedient also. We can be subservient also. As human beings, we are capable of that. If you want to run a country of 1.5 billion people, you need to have a written law. You need to have instructions, a set of instructions for determining and influencing and one can say encouraging a particular type of behavior, especially with each other, right? That set of instructions is the rule book. That set of instructions is the constitution. And that happens in every democracy. Why? Because we are capable of being ruled. And that is what makes us different from other species on planet Earth. And that is why we are considered to be the apex species on planet Earth. Right. And that is why we are 8 billion of us. Politics, therefore, is about governing people so that you create conditions. What kind of conditions? Favorable conditions for human beings so as to able to let them enjoy life. How do you enjoy life? You have two faculties. You have physical faculties and you have mental faculties. And if you are given complete room, space, scope for expressing your physical and mental faculties, then you're witnessing true freedom. Right? You could be a wrestler also, you could become a cricketer, you could become a singer, dancer, dramatist, theater artist, you could be a baker, you could be a gardener, you could be a lawyer, scientist, you could be a mathematician, you could be a teacher, nurse, environmentalist, conservator, you could be anything, depending on how you wish or what you wish you want to become, intellectually and physically both. To create that space for ultimate human happiness and ultimate human fulfillment, you need a framework, you need a system. That system is called as politics. Politics is not a political party. Politics is not a political organization or just elections. Politics is the organizing principle of life. What did I say? Politics is the organizing principle of life. Politics provides the value framework for conducting your life on a daily basis. Politics touches your life from cradle to grave, from the time you're born till the time you die. Politics is an inextricable part of your life, inseparable part of your life. When the protests were going on and when many people said that these protests are getting politicized or Abhijit Dipke has certain political connections. When I encountered such questions or when I read such questions, I was tempted to conduct this lecture because at least I, as a teacher, as the teacher of political science, must be in a position to teach what is politics. What is wrong in Abhijit Dipke being funded by a political party? After all, a political party is governing the country. After all, a political party is in the opposition. After all, a political party is the representative of people. Then what is wrong? A political problem needs a political solution. Don't politicize students' protest. That is the most idiotic, most stupid, most delusional, ignorant statement that I've ever come across. Oh, I don't believe in politics. If you don't believe in politics, you don't respect your own life. In political science itself, they have asked a question. What is personal is political and what is political is personal. I'll give you an example and I'll again repeat because this has been asked in UPSC mains as well in optional PSIR. What is political is personal and what is personal is political. Everybody has politics, their own politics. When the maid comes to your house, and if your mother gives a separate set of utensils to the maid, that is your mother's politics. that she does not want to, one can say, she does not want to share the same cutlery and the same set of utensils with somebody she considers to be from a different religion or a lower caste. So her politics is centered around religion and caste. When you want to go out and party with your friends and you want to come home late at night, but when your mother does not give you the permission, you insist. That's your politics because you want to express your desire and the will to spend more time with your friends. That's your politics. When you demand money from your parents as a part of your pocket money, that's your politics. How you speak with people, how you speak with the service industry people working as waiters in hotels and restaurants, that is your politics. Politics, students, please understand, is not a political party, is not confined to the realm of just fighting elections, contesting elections, winning elections, and delivering speeches. Politics is the way you conduct your life, is the way you color your life. Dealing with people, institutions, organizations, cooperating with people, institutions, organizations, and coordinating and competing with the institutions and organizations is politics. Politics is based on ideology, and life is also based on ideology. You and I, each one of us has an ideology. We could have different ideologies, but at least there is some ideology which dictates the shape and the direction or the trajectory of our lives. So when you say that I don't want to protest or I don't want to be associated with the students' protest because I am not a political person, everything is politics. That means you're denying your own self the humanity that you deserve. Somebody at 4 o'clock in the morning sweeps the streets of your city and therefore you're able to roam freely in hygienic conditions. Somebody is working at a power center so that electricity is supplied to you 24/7, and this lecture is also being conducted on the same electricity. Right? I would request the students at this point in time to not send messages. I will definitely give you time to speak. But right now, when I'm in a flow and I'm teaching, because then I would not be able to read your chat. I'll definitely read your chat later. But let me conduct this lecture first so that I am able to deliver in a flow. Everything is politics around you. How can you dissociate yourself from that? You cannot. Just going there and casting your vote is not political participation. So I repeat, what is personal is political and what is political is personal. Patriarchy begins from home. Feminism also begins from home. Okay? So politics is a sword. How you use that sword, because it is a double-edged sword. How you use that sword will essentially determine the quality of your life, will essentially determine the quality of citizens' life. Okay. This is the dictionary definition that we discussed. But what has happened to politics in India since 15th of August 1947? Since the time India attained its independence till today, till 26th of July 2026, till today, if you look at India, just compare the political class of 1947 to the political class of 2026, people who represent us. There is a huge difference. Okay. If you look at the political class or the leaders who were members of the first cabinet, there is a huge difference to the members of the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha today. At that point in time, more than 46% of the members of the cabinet, of the, one can say, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, were graduates. Today, 43% of the members of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha have cases registered against them. At that point in time, more than 20% of the members of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, that is the parliament, were qualified lawyers and barristers. Today, 26% of the members of the cabinet, unfortunately, have cases against them associated with the POXO or sexual assault or rape or murder. What does this tell you? This tells you that the political class in India has steadily declined. The quality of politicians that we have produced has steadily declined. Okay. That is what it means. So that's that. And that cuts across all party lines. It is not restricted to just the political party in power. Because I am using the term Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, which means parliament is composed of so many parties. So I'm talking about not just the center, but I'm talking about state also. Now, why has that happened? This is a unique case study which we are going to deconstruct today together. Politician is called as a public servant. Why is a politician called as a public servant? They are public servants. But the question which begs an answer is why public servant? Why servant? Okay. French philosopher Rousseau, who we are going to study extensively in our political science courses, talked about the free will of people and talked about the flow of power. Power, students, you must understand, never flows from top to bottom. Power flows from bottom to top. Always. If you think that the Prime Minister of India is very powerful, it's because people have chosen to give that power to the Prime Minister. If you think that any Prime Minister, any minister, or even your local MLA, MP, if you think that they have social capital, that because it flows from the bottom, is because we have given them that power. We respect them, we give them the prestige. It is not the other way around. And it is not just in India. This is the theory of politics. Be it France, be it USA, be it Congo, be it a third world country like Ethiopia, be it India, be it Malaysia, power always flows from bottom to top, not top to bottom. If the people decide that we will snatch away your power, they can do that. And we have witnessed that right now. Do you think that this has happened for the first time in history? No. Maybe the first time in the history of independent India, but this keeps on happening all over the world. The world has witnessed, the political map of the world has witnessed such protests and such takedowns of political citadels and such takedowns of political palaces many times in the past. This is not the first time. This has happened in India as well during the JP movement in 1977. So power flows from bottom to top. That's the first thing. Always remember that. What happens is that because I'm a good teacher, I want to teach. Because you are a good athlete, you want to go to the ground. Because you are a good student, you want to study more. We all wish to express our free will in whichever way we deem fit. That is called as individual sovereignty. Politics begins with individual sovereignty. Individual sovereignty is the ability of the individual to decide what is best for her, what is best for her life. That is individual sovereignty. If you have agency, agency means freedom to take the right decision for your own life, then you have individual sovereignty. The first and the primary task of any politics is to protect individual sovereignty. After protection of individual sovereignty comes the sovereignty of the nation. Okay. Now, when you are engaged in the pursuit of living your life, fulfilling your intellectual pursuits, maximizing your physical pursuits and physical faculties, you also need an ecosystem within which you can do that. We are all social beings. Human beings are social beings. That means we are creatures of the society. What are we? We are the creatures of society. Meaning that we cannot reject the society and still thrive in it. Which means that it is a society which provides us favorable environment to lead our lives, which is what it does. Favorable environment meaning safe streets, lit streets in the night, clean water, food, nutrition, sanitation, public transport, electricity, law enforcement, everything. It is the society which gives you that. Upbringing of a child, schooling, primary education, everything, right? Civic sense, behavior, Society protects individual. There is a contract between the individual and society. I don't want to talk much about the social contract theory. Again, we have a special lecture on that. But moving from free will given to us by Rousseau, let's move to the social contract theory. The contract is between three. At the top, you have the state, then you have the individual, and to complete the triangle, there is society. The society creates informal conditions for an individual to succeed, and the state creates formal conditions for the individual to succeed, to empower the individual. Informally, the society creates conditions where they provide you with safety, security, playgrounds, clean water, clean drinking, clean potable drinking water, right? Upbringing, behavioralism, everything. And what does the state do? On the other hand, the state provides you with enforcement of those rules, that nobody should be harmed. And if anybody is harmed, then there is a provision of punishment. So the state does what? The state actually helps you to design your life. And the society also does the same. Society does it informally and the state does it formally. Correct? Now, as an individual, do you think that if you wish to become a scientist, if you wish to become a public orator, you have to work on your skill and craft. You have to hone your skill and craft. You have to sharpen your skills. Do you think that then you would have the time to create those conditions? To create the conditions of law enforcement, to create the conditions of peace, stability, and security, to create other provisions like clean drinking water, public transport, electricity, and even internet? No, you don't have the time to do it. So what do you do as an individual? As an individual, because you want to express your free will, as Rousseau had pointed out, what you do is you outsource the job of creating those conditions to somebody, right? If anybody wants to have PSIR optional course from Vajiram and Ravi, feel free to have it. I can just promise you that this also raises huge doubts over the credibility of your aspirations to become a UPSC civil servant. People who are spamming and saying that, do you want somebody else's course on my chat, and people who are actually availing the benefit of that, do you really think that they are forget about eligible? They are even they can even humanly qualify for this exam? Keep spamming my chat. I don't really have a problem with that. Okay, do it. Sell Vajiram and Ravi and sell Shubhra Ranjan, sell every other course. I can only promise you that my teaching is going to be above and beyond the pedigree of what you understand at those coaching institutes, which are just assembly lines for churning out 500 students every year, wherein nobody gets selected. But in my lectures, you will get good ammunition and content to write your essays, your PSIR, and everything else. So please do not disturb me. That's a humble request. So as an individual, what happens? As an individual, you want to outsource the job. I'm a faculty, and I have a YouTube channel. I deliver a lecture, but that lecture has to be edited also. What is my expertise? My expertise is probably studying the subject. I am also a student of PSIR, and I wish to remain the student of PSIR my entire life. And then I teach. So I have to invest my time on political science. I have to invest my time on ethics, on economy, on essay. So I outsource the job of editing to a editing team, right? Because they are proficient in that. Correct. Likewise, we as the citizens of this country, because we want to excel in whichever format that we deem fit, we outsource that job to somebody else. And who is that somebody else? That somebody else is the public servant. But again, the question should arise, why are we still calling them servant? They can be public officers also. But why servants? Because not only are we outsourcing the job to them, but we are paying them also. through taxes. It is our tax. There are two things that we do. It is our vote and it is our tax. These are the two powerful tools that people have, that citizens have in a democracy. If you use these two powerful tools, then you are legitimate. You have a legitimate demand in expecting things from others. That is what politics is. Servant is because it is your hard-earned money which is paid, which goes as a tax for the payment of salaries and for ensuring the privileges given to the public officers, and therefore they are servants. Also servants because they have themselves chosen to be a part of that vocation. Nobody pushed them into it. So understand the concept of free will and how power flows from bottom to top. That gives them the power, the political class, the power. From the concept of free will given to us by Rousseau, we move to individual sovereignty. Individual sovereignty is the first precondition for maximizing the potential and the life chances in an individual's life. Correct? From individual sovereignty, we move to the concept of the social contract theory between the state, individual, and the society, where the state creates formal conditions for an individual's optimization, and where the society creates informal conditions for an optimal life of an individual. Right? When the state does it, it does it through the pedestal and the platform of politics. So politics is what touches our lives from cradle to grave. When you're born, the municipality gives you the birth certificate. And when you die, the one can say your funeral procession, your funeral pyre, or your burial ground, everything is happening on a government land. And in the meanwhile, between these two events of your life, which you will never remember or which you will never have a conscious memory of, what happens between these two events, everything is managed by the ruling class, the governing class, I would say. Without the enforcement of law, what will happen? Then it will be jungle Raj. Might is right. What happens in a jungle? It is a carnivore which is the king of the jungle on account of it being strong, on account of it having the ability to eat you. Why is elephant not called as the king of the jungle? Because elephant does not devour other animals, but tiger is lesser powerful as compared to an elephant, and yet let me tell you, the tiger is the king of the jungle. So in a jungle Raj, your power and your threat of power both work to as kingmakers. But can we expect that in a society, in a civil society? No. We don't want jungle Raj, we want a rule of law, because the rule of law creates enough space and creates adequate conditions and appropriate conditions for the weak and the strong to have equal chance at life, or at least to have optimal chance at life. That is why we need the state. That is why politics is very important, and that is why what is personal is political and what is political is personal. When women demand their equal rights inside the home, inside the house, it is their politics. If your mate comes to you and says that I want 2 days off in a month, it is her politics, because it comes from, one can say, the umbrella of labor codes and labor laws. Labor codes and labor laws are centered around the whole idea of honorable amount of hard work and payment of compensation in an adequate manner, along with breaks. Therefore, you have the Maternity Benefit Act, where women who are carrying a child get 26 weeks of paid labor, right? Unpaid labor, paid labor for their maternity leave, right? You have labor codes and wages codes. What does that? That is politics. So everything in your life, including the fact that you are outraging over ethanol today, is your politics. It is your car. You should have at least the option to, the choice to feed which fuel to my car. Don't you think so? Even if the government is saying E20 fuel, if I feel that no, I want to have unleaded fuel in my car, I should have the ability to do it. When that choice is not available, that is when the problem begins. because here my ability to, or my freedom to make a choice is now restricted. I have to use E20 fuel. Why can't I use N95 fuel? Why can't I use unleaded fuel? Why can't I use other brands of fuel? Yes, by all means, you can sell E20 fuel. There is no problem with it. So, right from the time I go out of my house, how you greet others, that is also your politics. Do you greet everybody good morning, or do you greet only your elders good morning? Do you greet your servants? Do you greet your the people who take care of your life on a daily basis? The serving class, the labor class, how you talk to them also determines your politics, because that shows that you are a person who believes in class discrimination or class distinction, that only certain people belonging to a certain class should expect my respect and should expect civility from me. Have you not seen that even the rich people, even the richest of them, they stoop down and they use uncouth language, arrogant language with people from the serving community? That exposes their politics, because their politics is based on a social ladder called class. So again, I repeat, what is political is personal, what is personal is political. Do not even for a moment remotely entertain the thought that the student protest should not have been made political. Students demanding accountability, or students demanding compensation for the students who have committed suicide, is their politics. Integrity and sanctity of the exam, and expecting integrity and sanctity of the exam from the highest authority in the country, is politics. And if that demand comes from a political party or a political stable, then there is nothing wrong with it. And if they are raising political slogans against political parties, there is nothing wrong with it, because it impacts their life, like how the UPSC exam impacts your life. So if there are any glitches in the exam, if there are any loopholes in the exam, if there are any fractures in the examination process and the selection process, then what happens? They are stealing your time. You are investing 6 to 8 to 9 to 10 hours of your youth. As a young person, you can achieve everything. But I salute to everyone who writes their UPSC, because you are choosing to stay or to lock yourself inside a room and study for an exam. Youth never comes back. The elixir of youth never comes back. The innocence of youth never comes back. The energy of youth never comes back. The fountain of youth never comes back. And yet you are choosing to devote your precious years of your youth to an exam, so that in the future you could become a public servant. Great. But then what if I tell you tomorrow that your 2 years of hard work, where you were working for 10 hours a day, means nothing, because the selection process is highly rigged in favor of the people who come from a particular community or who are able to pay for the papers? That means that lack of integrity has robbed you of your 2 years, where you could have become an athlete or cricketer, you could have become a singer, you could have pursued your PhD, you could have pursued your other pursuits. So your life choices are now limited because somebody else chose to be corrupt. Is that not your politics? Does that not impact the quality of your life? So this is the first part of the lecture, where we're trying to understand what is politics. Okay. Then therefore I submit to you, boys and girls, that politics is a beautiful word. Through Rousseau's free will of people, through the social contract theory and individual sovereignty, we have learnt that what is personal is political and what is political is personal. Coming to the next question which I had asked you, what is the difference between the political batch of 1947 versus the political batch of 2026? And the difference is very clear, that the batch at the stroke of independence was of the highest pedigree, right? Those were educated people who had participated in the freedom struggle. They had an experience of confronting the British Raj. Whereas if you look at today's politicians, the unfortunate truth cutting across all party lines is that they enjoy the privileges of being in power, but they don't share those privileges, or they don't use that privilege for the benefit of the people at large. And people suffer. People keep paying taxes. People keep voting. People keep suffering. People keep dying. People keep pleading. People keep requesting. People keep pleading. If that is the case, then politics has failed in our country. And if that is the case, then we need to reform politics. We need to reform the ruling class of our country. But you know what? What has happened is when you want to get better at something, when you want to reform something, you should know the ways. You should also know the reason why this has happened. For example, I want to lose weight. Not for example, I actually want to lose weight. Now, when I want to lose weight, of course, I'll go to the gym, I'll eat healthy, I'll eat on time, I'll sleep well, I'll do everything. But I should also know why I have become fat in the last 2 years. It's probably because of bad lifestyle. It's probably because of the buildup of cortisol in the body. It's probably because of lack of sleep. It's probably because of eating junk food and outside food a lot and traveling a lot. So I know that eating habits and lifestyle changes are required if I really want to lose weight. What has led to a crisis needs to be understood. In one simple statement, I will tell you the crisis of politics in India. It is simple. It is politicization of criminals and criminalization of politics. What is it? Politicization of criminals and criminalization of politics. Okay. That is what has happened in our country since the last 75 years. ऐसा आज ही हो रहा है, ऐसा तो नहीं है ना. Remember one thing very clearly, that things evolve and devolve and degenerate over a period of time. Okay. So politics has also gradually deteriorated in our country. Why? In the 1960s, 70s, 80s, India was busy creating human capital. Now, what is human capital? Humans are humans. Capital is what? The literacy rate at the stroke of independence was 16%. The literacy rate amongst women at the stroke of independence was 7%. And India had only two classes of people, the rich class and the poor class. The rich class was the microscopic minority comprising of 0.001% of Indians, and the rest of the people were all from the lower echelons of the society or the lower strata of the society. Right. So when you talk about such people, when you talk about the social and the demographic profile of a country like that, you need to first embolden people. Where we talk about the capability approach given by Dr. Amartya Sen. Dr. Amartya Sen is a Nobel laureate and an economist from India. He is one of the one can say one of the strongest voices of pedagogic excellence and economic excellence in our country. Dr. Amartya Sen in his books has mentioned the capability approach. If you give people 2,000 rupees or 6,000 rupees per month under any yojana, it could be Ladki Bahin Yojana, it could be anything. If you give people free food grains, if you give people free electricity, that's all good. But that's all good only for survival. It's just the first aid. Like when there is an accident on the streets, a person may need surgery and maybe you may have to rush that person to the ICU in a hospital. So a surgical effort is required. But on spot, when the person is losing blood and profusely losing blood and is writhing in pain, at that time, only first aid can save that person. In a country also, the first aid has to be administered first. In India, when it got its independence, that first aid was education and healthcare and institutions of higher learning. Once that is given to the people, then they are strong enough. Then you require a surgical treatment of the country, where you build dams. At the ribbon cutting ceremony of the Bhakra Nangal Dam, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru famously quoted that these are the modern temples of India. He was referring to not just the dam, but he was referring to the IITs and the IIMs and the AIMS and the national law universities which were being instituted. That is how you build, that is how you improve the capability of people, which is the capability approach of Amartya Sen. We just don't want the government to keep on giving free food grains to people. We want the government to ensure that it has enough sustainable and livelihood options for people so that they can earn their own bread. So employment creation and inflation control are the two most important things that the government must undertake along with other welfare activities. The government you cannot expect the government to only keep on spending on welfare. So the government after 15th August 1947 was administering first aid for the first 10 years. In the 60s, there was a new realization which had dawned upon the political class of India. What was that new reality? Let's create jobs. So for nation building, you need human capital, and for nation building, you need institution of capital intensive industries also. You will see that the 70s and the 80s, 60s was a decade of complete crisis in India. 1961, India lost the war to China. 1965, India went to war with Pakistan. 63, 65, 66 have been consecutive years of famine and drought. 60s were a decade of absolute pandemonium in the country, including the fact that we lost our first Prime Minister, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Country felt politically orphaned for a while until Lal Bahadur Shastri and later on Indira Gandhi took charge. So there was political crisis, there was economic crisis, there was crisis of employment, there was crisis of cultivation. Imagine the irony that India is known as an agrarian economy and yet we had to import wheat from US and Mexico. Can you even conjure a situation like that? That a country like India has to now import wheat. India is the largest producer of wheat and rice in the world today. And that too, which variety of wheat? PL 480. The PL 480, P for Pune, L for Lucknow. The PL 480 variety of wheat actually was meant in US and Mexico to be fed to the milch animals and their cattle. That was being fed to Indians. So by the end of 1960s, when you come, the country was completely economically ravaged, socially immobilized, and in complete disarray and disillusionment, including the fact that India was witnessing a political crisis of its own at the top, within Congress itself. At that point in time, in the 1970s, after the turbulent decades of 1960s, we decided to chart a growth based on public sector undertakings. So public sector undertaking means banks. Therefore, you will see nationalization of banks and nationalization of mines happened in 1969. Then the institutionalization of ONGC, BPCL, HPCL, right? LIC, NTPC. So many public sector organizations cropped up, which remained, one can say, at the forefront of nation building. So be it iron ore mining, be it aluminium, bauxite, power production, nuclear power, nuclear arms, right? Electronics, everything. India was now doing everything for its own self. We were trying to become a self-reliant nation. So from addressing the problems of illiteracy, we were now moving to solving other bigger problems, for which you required a lot of human capital. And that human capital, which was trained in the IITs, IIMs, engineering colleges, medical colleges, law universities, they were now getting jobs because they were now pass outs. So you are doing two things. You are building a nation on the other one hand. On the other hand, you are creating employment also. आज तो आप देख रहे हो कि these public sector enterprises are actually being sold. And when they are taken up by the private sector enterprise, they first of all start firing people, or they offer jobs on a contractual basis. So long-term sustainable sources of livelihood incomes are now, the chances of that are now vanishing very fast. But back in the day, it was exactly the opposite of it. The chances of having a long-term job were increasing day by day. 70s and 80s, India saw the rise of a new class called as the middle class, because these were the people who now got jobs. And because of those jobs, they were pulled out of poverty. I actually call them the Bajaj generation, because everybody who got a job at that point in time, our parents and our grandparents, especially your grandparents, these people used to buy a Bajaj scooter because there was only one scooter in India at that time. So yes, the Bajaj generation, the proverbial middle class, that came into being. So you see, because of the prospect of jobs, because of the prospect of a good life, everybody in our country, educated people, started getting more and more educated, started enlisting their children in institutions of education like schools and colleges, and started building a life. So by 60s and 70s, people had started losing interest in politics as a career option. Politics was no longer a career option because you could now become an engineer, you could now become a lawyer. So you were simply happy in outsourcing the job of politics to somebody else. Okay, you rule on us, our behalf. And anyways, that outsourcing of job is called as a representative democracy, which is what we are. India is a representative democracy, where the person sitting in the state assembly and the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha is nothing but a representative of me. And why do I need somebody else to represent me? Is because I am busy in building an institution called as Roundtable IAS. I'm busy in teaching students. I'm busy in conducting podcasts. I'm busy in building a YouTube presence. And I'm busy in writing books. So if I'm busy in so many things, I need somebody else to do the job, right? Somebody to provide me with 24/7 electricity, somebody to provide me with all the other provisioning and the basic civic amenities. So in 70s and 80s, when Indians were getting jobs, when this proverbial big fat Indian middle class was rising, people were now rejecting politics as a career choice. And because people were rejecting politics as a career choice, a political vacuum was created, especially in the 70s and the 80s. Because good people or educated people or well intentioned people were shunning politics as a career choice because other choices were now available. And what happens when a vacuum is created? Somebody is going to replace it, somebody is going to fill that vacuum. So typically, people who did not have a choice at life, typically people who did not have education, they started filling those posts, and majority of them were people who either had criminal backgrounds or people who had more proclivity towards violence and crime. Because violence and crime is generally associated with poverty, is generally associated with lack of education, whether you like it or not, it is a fact. So if that political vacuum, because of lack of participation by the educated class, is filled by the uneducated class, it is also possible that it will be more criminal in its disposition, or it will have more proclivity towards violence or more acceptability towards violence, right? And that is the first stage, the politicization of criminals were getting now political legitimacy, they were entering politics, and civil society in India was getting busy with its economic pursuits. In 1991, when the Indian economy opened up and the private sector boomed, foreign sector participation was allowed in India, and the economy assumed, one can say, a lot of dynamism. With the boom in IT and with the advent of globalization, young Indians started getting jobs. So more and more we saw that politics became only the domain of a few families, and politics remained to be the domain of only a few criminals. Today, whether you like it or not, you have to accept the fact that if you want to enter politics and succeed in it, you need to have either a political background or you need to have a criminal background. That is the unfortunate truth and the template of politics in India. Why has that template changed? The lecture is about that, no? The lecture is about the change in the tectonic shift in the political space of India. So by the time you entered the 21st century, politics had become a game centered around money, right? And who are the people who can bring in easy money? It is the criminals, through extortion, through organized crime, through organized violence. So the Bahubali culture started, it had already begun in 1980s. The Bahubali culture became a mainstream culture in politics, where if you were a bigger gunda, you had higher chances of getting into a political party. People are anyways busy. People have anyways outsourced their job. Political participation was only restricted to now casting vote. And we were casting vote in a very different way now. So the second phase, when money came into the politics, it became criminalization of politics. Okay. But is it the only reason for the degeneration of politics in India? No. The next part of the lecture is even more important. We are going to conduct a systematic analysis and a critical assessment of politics in India today. Why is politics failing in India today? We have taken an evolutionary perspective. Now take the present perspective. Because you've come to 2026 now. See, the problem in our country is that we don't understand polity of India. In this country, what we see is that the politician, the ruler, for example, the CM or the PM, the PM is not elected, the PM is appointed. Boys and girls, please understand this. The Prime Minister of this country is an appointed authority, is an appointed public figure, not an elected public figure. But when you go in the when you mingle in the society, when you communicate and engage and interact in the society, what do you see? लोग तो यही पूछते हैं ना यार कि वोट किसको देने वाला है, राहुल गांधी को देगा कि नरेंद्र मोदी को देगा? महाराष्ट्र में पूछते हैं वोट किसको देने वाले हैं, उद्धव ठाकरे को दोगे कि देवेंद्र फडणवीस को दोगे? ओके, ये सबसे तकियानूसी, सबसे घटिया, सबसे हॉलो, सबसे बेकार सवाल है। भाई मैं मुंबई में रहता हूं, तो मैं why should I be concerned about Rahul Gandhi? Why should I be concerned about Narendra Modi? Because Rahul Gandhi, as far as I know, is an MP from Wayanad, Kerala, and even Amethi or Raebareli, if I'm not wrong. And Narendra Modi is an MP from Varanasi. So the people of Varanasi are very correct in asking the right questions from Modi ji, or people of Wayanad can ask questions from Rahul Gandhi. But why am I concerned about either of the two? When I go to vote today, and when I say I am talking about the society. Today we are voting very subjectively. We are voting, हमारे यहाँ पे voting कैसा हो रहा है? Legacy voting हो रहा है. Legacy voting मतलब 99% of the people in this country vote for the same person that their fathers and mothers have voted for. जो आपके माँ बाप ने जिसको वोट किया है आप उसी को वोट करते हो. 90% केसेस में यही होता है, ये याद रखो. तो क्या वोटिंग ऐसा होना चाहिए? नहीं होता. और 90% लोग इस देश में जो आपके माँ बाप हैं, वो उन्होंने किसी पार्टी को क्यों चुना? उन्होंने किसी पार्टी को इसलिए चुना क्योंकि इंडिया में एक पावर स्टेक होल्डरशिप मॉडल है. दिस इज द नेक्स्ट कॉन्सेप्ट आई वांट यू टू नो, द पावर स्टेक होल्डरशिप मॉडल. और इसी पावर स्टेक होल्डरशिप मॉडल की वजह से टुडे यू हैव अ सिचुएशन ऑफ रिलीजन बेस्ड पॉलिटिक्स एंड कास्ट बेस्ड पॉलिटिक्स इन आवर कंट्री. What happens is that if I am a Dalit, or if I am an Adivasi, or if I am a Brahman, I cannot enter politics because politics ने barricading कर दिया है. Politics is now meant only for families and criminals. I don't come from a family of politicians, neither do I come from a criminal background. So there is a clear barricade now. Invisible barricading has happened. But I still want to see myself in the power structure. So when an Indira Gandhi becomes the Prime Minister of India, every woman in India feels that they have become the Prime Minister. This is called as the Masiha culture. This is where bhakti begins. And this is why Dr. B.R. Ambedkar said, while giving the Constitution of India or presenting the Constitution of India in the Legislative Assembly, that bhakti and blind followership and worship is not the essence of democracy. It is dissent which is the essence of democracy. भक्ति मत करो. अभी दीप्ति ने भी बोला ना, don't make me a hero. Yeah, all this problem has happened because somebody else was made the hero and made bigger than the constitution, means bigger than the law of the land. Political stakeholdership model में क्या होता है? People start looking for their extension in the public figures. So when you talk about Narendra Modi, people belonging to a particular school of thought, they see their extension in Modi. Some people see their extension in Thackeray, some people see their extension in Rahul Gandhi. Some people, because you come from an identity and you feel very strongly about that identity. If you are a Brahmin Baniya, you feel very strongly about your Brahmin Baniya identity. Therefore, you are naturally predisposed to go with Narendra Modi. Because you see yourself in Narendra Modi or Adani or Ambani. Right? कुछ भी बोलो एक ही बात है. आज मैं खुला खुला बात करने के लिए आया हूं आपसे, ठीक है? If you are a Dalit or a Muslim, you see yourself in a Dalit leader, you see yourself in a Muslim leader. Correct? Why do you want to see yourself desperately in your leader's face? Because you can't reach there. Because that political barricading has happened. I told you. So I feel as a woman, if Indira Gandhi becomes the prime minister of this country, as a woman, I feel it's a personal victory for me. As a Hindu Sanatani, I feel Narendra Modi is a personal victory for me. Right? When APJ Kalam becomes the president of India, as a Muslim, I see a personal victory for me. Because I see them as my extension. The next question which should come to your mind is, why do you want stakeholdership? Why do you want to have stakes over that personality? Why are you following that personality? Why can't you become that personality? Is because of unemployment, is because of lack of education, and is because of higher level of inflation. You go across the world, not just in India. You go across the world, you travel across the world. What will you see? Invariably, you will see that people pick their leaders, and wherever you will see this kind of blind for worship, you will see that in that country the rate of unemployment is very high, the rate of inflation is very high, and the rate of illiteracy is also very high. हर जगह जहां प्रोटेस्ट हुआ है या हर जगह जहां भक्ति हो रही है वहां पे तीनों चीजें हाई है. व्हाई डू यू थिंक दैट डोनाल्ड ट्रंप टुडे is able to command so much of political capital in US? Because the white Caucasian in America is facing the same thing: high inflation, high unemployment, and even lack of access to higher education. अब आप बोलोगे डोनाल्ड ट्रंप कैसे बोल दिया इन्होंने? Let me explain. Donald Trump, when he got elected in 2016, when you check the election data, I am not saying anything wrong here, or I am not faffing here. You can go to the internet and cross check it. More than 60% of the people who have voted for Donald Trump have been white Caucasians, means white Americans. But who are these white Caucasians and white Americans? They are the people who are either 50 or above 50 in age. There is a very curious case study in this, if you can read the data carefully. What is Donald Trump's election campaign? Make America great again. MAGA. But in reality, he's saying make white Americans great again. That is cultural fascism or cultural hegemony, where he is posing racial superiority as his election campaign. That if you are white, you are racially superior because you are intellectually and morally also superior than others. You are physically also superior than others. You know why? Or how does this happen? The people who are 50 or 50 plus and 60 plus, they are either going to retire or have already retired. These are the same people who had lost their jobs in the 1990s to whom? To the brown skinned Asians, Indians, Bangladeshis, Sri Lankans, Pakistanis. They lost their jobs to yellow skinned Asians also. The Chinese, the Japanese, the Koreans, the Taiwanese. And then in the white blue collared economy, they lost their jobs to Latin Americans also. The plumbers, the mechanics, the drivers. And in the entertainment industry also, their icons are largely blacks today, the Afro-American community. Right? Be it NBA, be it football, be it basketball, be it rap, be it golf. You see, every sport today is dominated in America, or every form of entertainment is dominated in America by the blacks. So the blacks have completely hijacked their entertainment industry. The brown-skinned Asians have hijacked their education and their professional jobs. Right? Their electronics manufacturing and high-tech jobs have been gone complete to the yellow-skinned Asians. And the blue-collar economy is appropriated by the Latin Americans. So the white American did not have a job. And America steadily has seen a lot of unemployment, but has also witnessed a lot of high prices, price instability. Right? And because of that price instability today, that white American does not want their kid to suffer the same fate. That fine, I lost my job, fine, I today don't have savings and money, fine, I have suffered from high level of inflation and I have not also gone to a college. So let my child at least have an easy life. And when somebody comes to you and tells you that I will ensure that it happens in the name of Make America Great Again, you will be like, I'll vote this for this person. Morals are for those who can feed themselves. I don't care about the fact that he is a misogynist, that he is a masochist, he's a megalomaniac. I don't care about the fact that he is out there with a license to kill. I don't care about the fact that he wages wars against countries. I care about my son and my daughter, right? Always remember, your economic distress is a step towards your religious fanaticism or racial superiority. Always. In India also, you will find people who have more proclivity towards violence are also the most religious people. Why? Is there anything wrong with religion? No. There is something wrong with the people. People don't have employment. People don't have jobs. People have to deal with inflation. People have to deal with lack of access to education. 94,000 government schools have been shut down in our country. So if a child is not going to the school, then Amartya Sen's capability approach fails. Then that means that child will not be able to get a job in the future. So what will happen to that child? Either that child will become completely religious and spiritual or will become a criminal. Therefore, Karl Marx had once said, religion is the opium of masses. What did he say? Religion is the opium of masses. Opium means it is a addictive substance which gives you hallucinations. Religion gives you hallucinations only. Religion per se is a very pious element, is a institution which should be there in the society for maintenance of peace and stability. But religion today is used as a means to achieve certain political and materialistic gains. And today religion has become the basis for torture and crime because people have become like that. Why? Why are people like that? Because people don't have a hope in life. So when you wake up in the morning tomorrow, you have a hope that I'm going to crack UPSC. I have a hope that I'll become the best teacher on planet Earth. Scientists have hopes of getting vaccines and treatments for cancer. Athletes have hopes for next Olympics and next FIFA World Cup. But what is the hope for an uneducated, unempowered person who's dealing with inflation? There is no hope. Then that person is more likely to become a religious fanatic, is more likely to find their penance and their solace in religion. How do you know Sachin Tendulkar as a batsman? You know A.R. Rahman as a musician. You know Christopher Nolan as a director. You know Sonam Wangchuk as an educationist, as an engineer. Right? You know Bear Grylls as an environmentalist and an environmental educator. So do you know these people by their identities which were assigned to them at birth, or do you know these people by their identities which they cultivated themselves? There are two kinds of identities which we next see. Every concept, please listen to this carefully. I will share this lecture with you, make all your notes. There are two kinds of identities: assigned identity and cultivated identity. Assigned identity means the moment you are born, an identity is assigned to you. That you are born in a particular religion, you are born in a particular gender, you are born in a particular caste, you are born with a particular name. Can you change that identity? No. Is it going to stay with you for the rest of your life? Yes. And then from that identity begins the journey of cultivating your own identity. Right? But that is only possible when right conditions are available for cultivating that identity. When you have a job, when you're financially empowered, when you're educated, when you're literate, these are the preconditions which are absolutely necessary for cultivating an identity. If you cannot get those conditions, then cultivation of identity becomes impossible, and that leads to a next problem called as identity crisis. In majority of the countries today, including the USFA, identity crisis runs large. It is writ large over the population. Because again, jobs are not available. You don't have an answer for AI. You don't have an answer for vanishing jobs. You don't have an answer for rising unemployment and rising level of inflation, more so because of the war now. So the global conditions are changing so rapidly that it is reducing your ability to get a job. And therefore, what happens is that as a politician, you know that people are going through an identity crisis now. So you feed them with cultural superiority. Then you feed them with linguistic superiority. Then you feed them with racial superiority. That नहीं, तुम हिंदू हो तो तुम महान हो, तुम्हारी भाषा मराठी है तो तुम महान हो, you are great because you are white. What are these? These are assigned identities, ready-made identities which were available to you at birth only. Right? So if I'm not able to give you jobs, if I'm not able to give you one can say basic services and amenities, if I'm not able to give you affordable healthcare, and quality education, what I can definitely give you is a mandir, is a masjid. What I can definitely give you is a sense of linguistic superiority. What I can definitely give you is a superiority based on your racial profile or ethnicity. That is why there are so many problems all across the world. Politicians are milking this identity crisis of people. And that is how, my friends, I have used many examples. And that is how your parents also start voting for a particular religion or a particular caste. Because of what? Two things: political stakeholdership model and identity crisis. You want to see somebody as an extension of you because of invisible barricading, you can't reach there. And secondly, identity crisis. If somebody belongs from a particular religion or a caste, suddenly it gives me a sense of legitimacy that, oh, my religion and my caste is superior. And why do I need to feel that superiority? Because my work is not able to give that sense of superiority to me. That is the problem. Remember one thing, always. So your parents, now coming to the whole position of election campaigns in India, your parents voted, majority of the Indians vote in the name of religion and caste. अभी क्या हो रहा है? होना ये चाहिए कि यार आप wherever you live, I don't know where you live, you might live in Pune, Lucknow, Jhansi, Chennai, Bangalore, Mumbai, I don't know. But when you go to vote, what is the question you should ask? You should first of all say, forget about Rahul Gandhi and Narendra Modi, forget about the Thackeray brothers, forget about DMK and AIDMK, forget about Shiromani Akali Dal. Who are the contestants from my city? The contestants from my ward. Then you should go to the website of Election Commission. When you go to the website of Election Commission, find out the personal political experience of that person. Everything is mentioned on the website. Find out what the total number of assets that the person holds. Find out the political experience and education of that person. Find out if there are any if there is any criminal record associated. All this information is available. And also their promises to you, common minimum program or charter, what they are promising. Based on that, when you study all the candidates, based on that you take your decision. Did the question of which political party they belong to come up here? No. Did the question of religion and caste or race come up here? No. Did the question of linguistic or gender superiority arise here? No. You were not interested in these identities. You were only interested in work, education, criminal record, promises, and political experience. Don't you think these are the right questions and the right barometers on the basis of which you should vote for candidates? Yes. But when you go into that polling booth, you know what you're doing? You're either voting for Modi or Gandhi. Whereas that Modi or that Gandhi is never going to come to your area, is never going to be responsible for the cleaning of your streets, is never going to be responsible. Modi is responsible for Varanasi, yaar. Rahul Gandhi is responsible for Wayanad. On top of that, in the electoral process in India is such that any which ways you cannot vote for your prime minister, because the prime minister is actually also an MP. The prime minister in polity, when we teach polity, what do we teach? The prime minister is the first among equals. That means he's equal to everybody in the cabinet, but he's first among the equals. And then that cabinet, or then that one can say the party with a political majority, they with consent decide that, okay, this person is our leader. There is no election happening for the PM post in India, but the entire country is behaving like the entire country has to vote for the PM only. Even if you're voting in a particular ward election or the for an MLA or for an MP. Nobody in this country is interested in an MP or an MLA or ward. People are only dreaming to see Rahul Gandhi as the next PM People are only dreaming to see Modi as the next PM. People are only dreaming to see their personalities. Now, I would like to ask a question to somebody who posted about Vajiram and Ravi. It is my challenge to you. Download all the courses from Vajiram and Ravi. In fact, take it from me only. मैं खुद ही दे दूंगा आपको. And tell me which teacher is going to talk to you like this. Current affairs along with concepts. This is my open challenge. Any which ways. Coming back. I know that was a weird flex, but sometimes we have to do it. If somebody is pissing on your chat, then I have the right to defend myself. So again, I know that it is a weird flex. Why are we like this? Have you ever thought about it? चलो पॉलिटिकल स्टेकहोल्डरशिप मॉडल है, रिलीजियस इंडोक्ट्रिनेशन है, आइडेंटिटी क्राइसिस है, बट वी आर लाइक दिस इज बिकॉज यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड अ लिटिल बिट ऑफ हिस्ट्री. क्या होता है ना कि एंशियंट एंड मेडिवल पास्ट में वी हैव हैड किंग्स रूलिंग अस, मोनार्क्स रूलिंग अस, religious leaders ruling us. So there is a history of kingship and monarchy in our country, where we always want to see somebody as the ruler. We are genetically like that. We are genetically coded like that. And then when you come to the Mughals, the Mughal era, at that point in time, be it the Mughal era or the great Maratha Empire or the Rajput Empire or the great Vijayanagara Empire, empires were built by whom? Empires were built by kings. And these kings, these monarchies, majority of them, except for a few exceptions like Chandragupta Maurya, Ashoka, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, except for a few notable exceptions, every other king became a king on the basis of a cult. There is some bit of mythology around a king. There is some bit of a cult formation around a king, a legend around a king. And that creates an aura of invincibility. कि ये तो टच भी नहीं किया जा सकता, इसको तो आप one can say क्वेश्चन भी नहीं कर सकते, बियॉन्ड क्वेश्चन है. Something like God. God also has an aura of invincibility. Nobody can question the idea of God. Likewise, kings and princes, except for, as I said, a few notable exceptions, everybody worked on this aura of invincibility. Nobody can touch you. Nobody can question you. Nobody can come close to you. Nobody can become you. Right? Moving forward, then you come to the British Raj, the advent of the Britishers in India. When you talk about the British Raj and the advent of the Britishers in our country, you will also find a situation where, the aura of invincibility was now with whom? Was now with the Britishers, because they were superior on the basis of their skin color. Again, we were used to it. Gora Babu aa gaya, Gora Sahab aa gaya. And they were the revenue collectors and they were the magistrates at that point in time, which is what explains why IAS and IPS officers are respected so much in our country. Because the IAS and the IPS is a legacy of ICS, Indian Civil Services. So जो पहले हमारे लिए गोरा था, जो साहिब था, वो अभी हमारे लिए ब्राउन साहिब हो गया. एक ही बात हो गई. For many people, 15th August 1947 is not the political freedom of India, but just the transfer of political ownership. According to the subaltern view, which is correct, where I'm going to teach you subaltern view of politics also. There are going to be detailed lectures on the subaltern view of Indian national movement. What has happened is that we are so used to being ruled. We are so used to being told that we are inferior, that we think that that is the way of life. And therefore, a lot of people today, like the Dalits, the Adivasis, women, physically disabled people, all the people on the fringes of the society or the periphery of the society, they don't have a lot of political goodwill. They don't have a lot of political capital. They are not able to enter into mainstream politics. The population of women in this country is 49%, and the representation of women in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha is somewhere around 15 to 20%. Look at the power asymmetry there, and look at the lack of representation there itself. Right? So, in India, there is a colonial hangover and there is a feudal mindset. Feudal mindset comes from ancient and medieval times, when even zamindars ruled us and kings obviously ruled us. Colonial hangover comes from, obviously, the British Raj. But the Dalits, the Adivasis, the women, the LGBTQ community, the physically disabled people, forest dwelling communities, lower class people, poor people, these people today, for them, what is political freedom? Nothing. For them, it is nothing but a political transfer of ownership from one elite into the hands of another elite. What was the elite before independence? It was the British Raj. And who's the elite after the 15th August 1947? It is the Brahmin Baniya lobby of India. If you look at the political composition of, one can say, the political classes after independence, 90% or 70 to 80% of them were from the Brahmin community. So the Brahminization of politics in India is also taught as a sociological concept, and that concept must be understood here in political science also. For many Indians at the bottom, top does not matter because the top has always been an elite. The top comprises of the elite class of India and the elite caste of India. And because of that, people are disgruntled as well. They are disillusioned. There is disenchantment. कि कुछ नहीं हो सकता. Hopelessness. We can never reach there. There are only 200 families in India which supply Supreme Court and High Court judges to India. I am not saying it. Go to Google and check it. Look, from more than 70 to 80% of your joint secretaries and cabinet secretaries are Brahmins. More than 70 to 80% of your independent media is also from the elite caste of India. More than 90% of the businessmen are from the Gujarati or the Jain community. Okay. Of course, there are going to be exceptions. So what I'm trying to tell you, or the Marwadi community, that the elites rule our country. Right? Naturally, when the elites rule the country, people at the bottom will vote for the people who from their identity only. Na? That is also the case. That then the Dalit would want to vote for a Dalit. Then the Muslim would want to vote for a Muslim. A Christian would want to vote for a Christian, because at least there they see some extension of themselves. So we are like this. We vote for identities is not only because of economic distress, is not only because of lack of jobs. We vote like this also because of a feudal mindset and a colonial hangover. All these are the contributing factors in determining our voting behavior today. It is not very simple. Now, can anybody in this class dare to say that I am apolitical or I am not interested in politics, or the students' protest should not have been political? Boss, everything is political. As long as you properly investigate and examine the conditions of politics around you. And nobody in this country, and since you are the future of this country, I urge all of you, don't vote for BJP, don't vote for Congress, don't vote for AAP, don't vote for Kejriwal, Gandhi, Modi. Go to the Election Commission website, vote for your MP, vote for your MLA, who you think is the best, according to the record which is available. Regardless of the party, religion, caste, or the language that they come from. Don't vote for ready-made identities, vote for cultivated identities. If you want to have a condition where you can also cultivate your identity, that person sitting at the top should also have a cultivated identity. The political class of this country is a reflection of the society. After all, they are the members of our society only. I hope the meaning of politics and the anatomy of politics is clear to all of you. Which takes me to the last part of this lecture today. The last part of this lecture is called as the anatomy of protest. What is protest? See, today I don't want to get into, one can say, political mudslinging. I don't want to unnecessarily expose my political affiliation. And I don't have to do it, because as a teacher, see, always remember one thing, because other institutes' names were also taken in this lecture today. The name of the institutions are great, but you are doing the same thing. An institution is like a political party. Do you even know who's teaching political science in those? No. But just because one brand is created, you are moving towards that brand. I have proved myself and you have proved my point. Who is the best teacher? You should sit in that lecture and decide for yourself. rather than offering free lectures from a particular institute. That is available everywhere. I will give you all my free lectures on Telegram and YouTube. Chalo. Right. So you are messing with the wrong person, boy. Anyways, coming back to politics. When you talk about the politics of it or the protest, remember one thing, that protest is dissent, and dissent is the essence of democracy. Every democracy, when it elects its leaders, when it is electing that leader, it is choosing a leader who will engage in good governance, who will empower people. That is an expectation from a leader. But are you absolutely sure that every leader will perform to the best extent possible? No, there are bound to be failures. There are bound to be certain gaps in execution. But if there are bound to be failures and if there are certain gaps in execution, then remember one thing very clearly, that there has to be a system of checks and balances. Counterbalancing force is also required. You ask questions. That is why you have a leader of opposition. That is one system of checks and balances. You have the judiciary. That is another system of checks and balances. You have institutions like, for example, in India, you have institutions like Lokpal, ED, CBI. That is another check and balance. If nothing else, you have every 5 years, you have the right to vote. So you can change the political party if you're not happy with them. So there are various means and mechanisms available, including Article 32 and Article 216, that if your fundamental rights are encroached upon, you can approach the Supreme Court and High Court respectively. But even then, after the using of so many instruments, and there is another pillar called as the fourth pillar of the democracy, which is media. If the media is also compromised, if the Supreme Court and High Court have become citadels of the elite class, if your voice is not heard, if institutions like ED and CBI are working as the agents of the state rather than the servants of the people, then there is another form of resolution available in any democracy, that is dissent, that is protest. And this, see, every other form has taught to us by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Vote, then cast your vote, then, ask for your rights, or Article 32, Article 216. It is the constitution makers of India which have given us these mechanisms. But then there are other mechanisms like non-cooperation, civil disobedience, and protest, which has been given to us by Mahatma Gandhi, the foundation of which is based on Satyagraha and non-violence, the creed of Satyagraha and non-violence. When everything else fails, then dissent becomes the only option, so that the political elite hears you out, and not as an elite, but as a servant. In India, in the last 75 years, we have seen politicians, especially in the last 30 to 40 years, we have seen politicians being very arrogant, being deaf and dumb towards the needs of the people. And therefore, dissent becomes the only way possible. Of course, it has to be done in a very peaceful manner. So therefore, when you talk about this student protest, understand one thing, that protest is also a form of mainstream political instrument. It is not extra constitutional. You are well within your constitutional rights to protest. And do you know why? Is because it is about the encroachment on your fundamental rights. But when the student agitation was going on, when people were raising questions, contrarian questions, I really felt everybody to know something called as natural rights. Well, you know what are natural rights? Natural rights are inalienable rights. Some things which cannot be taken away from you. The state does not give you those rights. The state cannot take away those rights. Those are yours to be had. And that is on account of your birth. The moment a person is born, that person is born with three natural rights. The right to life, right to liberty, and right to property. These are three natural rights available to all. Right to life, right to liberty, and right to property. Who gave the concept of natural rights? It was John Stuart Mill and then John Locke. When we talk about Western political thought in our political science lectures, we will talk about these people as well in greater detail. होता क्या है कि when your natural rights, they are codified and written down as fundamental rights in your constitution. Okay. In any constitution of the world, in starting with Magna Carta of 12th century. So when you talk about these fundamental rights, they are not given to you by the state. They are protected by the state. They are guaranteed by the state. That is what the state intends to do. This is the difference that people don't understand. Oh, see, political science पढ़ रहे हो इतना समझो. Political science is about power and rights. Power of the state and rights of the individuals. That has to be in a state of balance. Means the state has to surrender some of its power so that the citizens can enjoy their rights. And the citizens also have to surrender their rights so that the state can exercise power and create a level playing field. I can give you an example. When we say that we will not break the law, we will not violate the law, we are surrendering some of our rights to the state. Why? Because we want a peaceful and a lawful society. Correct? If we keep on violating the law, then the strong will become stronger and the weaker will become weaker. So what do we want? We want to surrender some of our rights. So therefore, many fundamental rights come with reasonable restrictions when you read your constitution. I will teach you that as well. Why reasonable restrictions? Because my right to swing my arm must stop at the tip of your nose. So my right to swing my arm must not punch you. That is where the state comes in. And if I'm punching you, then the state should hold that hand. The state is taking away some of your fundamental right because somebody else's fundamental right is being encroached upon. So you need to have a level playing field. Therefore, you have to surrender some of your rights. And the state also has to surrender some of its power. And when both the parties, the state and the citizens, when they surrender some of their rights and surrender some of their power, what you get is a balanced society, the balance between rights and power. Correct? And let me tell you, the source of all fundamental rights is your natural rights. Correct? Therefore, the state cannot give it to you or take it from you. The state is duty bound and obligated to only protect it and guarantee it. So when the state is unable to do that, it happens to be that the citizens of the state have to protest and have to dissent, because this is a cause and the case of snatching back your natural rights, which were nobody's property in the first place. Okay. So in any democracy, protest becomes the foundation and the bedrock on which rights are protected. And the state has to be duty bound and the state has to be receptive to the people. Were the people consulted before being imposed with E20 petrol? No. Does the state come to you and ask you, should we build that bridge? Why do you think there are so many landslides and avalanches in Himachal today and Uttarakhand today? The Supreme Court of India itself, in one of its judgments, has stated that the Himachal and the Uttarakhand Himalayas are going to be dead and buried. Why? Because of anthropogenic intervention. Why? Because of religious tourism, because of rampant commercialization, because of construction of hill slopes, because of so many tunnels and because of so many dams which have been constructed in the name of development. What development? If you're committing ecocide when there is not going to be any nature, what development is going to serve you? So were the people consulted? If the Himalayas are sinking today, if Joshimath is sinking today, if Uttarakhand is facing deforestation, were the people consulted? When you talk about the river interlinking projects like Ken Betwa river interlinking project, were the people consulted? Fine, you will ensure that one river with water surplus will provide water to another river with water deficit. But what about the people? So many villages will be inundated. So many villages will be submerged in water. Even Panna Tiger Reserve, which has tiger as an apex species, even that will be submerged. So if there is no tiger, there is no ecosystem. If there are no people, if there is no land, there is no cultivation, means no people. No indigenous communities, no farming, right? And when the political bosses do not see, we are a deliberative democracy where discussion happens. We are not just a representative democracy. The definition of Indian democracy is that we have the three Ds: dissent, deliberation, and discussion. All three are equally important and contribute in equal measure to the governance in India. Discussion, deliberation, and dissent. So when discussion is not happening, deliberation happens on the part of the government. Discussion happens with the citizens. If both the things are not happening, then what is the option left with people? Dissent, which is protest. So I submit to you that protest is a perfectly legitimate form of political expression, as long as it remains within the confines of, one can say, stays away from crime and violence. And protest is the last way through which you can make your political servants hear you, not political masters, political servants hear you out. That is a protest. A lot of people were saying that students protest. So keep the issue only to students protest. Don't unnecessarily bring in other issues. I want to discuss something about that as well. Remember one thing, that 1857 revolt in India. What happened? What was the cause? If you read Bipin Chandra and other books, what is told to you? Right? Actually, what is told to you is that it was the Enfield bullet rifle issue, the cover of which was made of pig fat, and pig is considered to be haram for Muslims. Unfortunately, you had to tear it down with your teeth. So the Muslims were offended. And there was another, one can say, there was another issue with, one can say, the mixing of cow bone dust in atta. Now, cow is considered to be sacred in the Hindu religion. That became the trigger point for the Meerut conspiracy or the firing. And then the eventual hanging of Mangal Pandey opened up the floodgates, became the inflection point, and then the Sepoy mutiny began, which we today know as the First War of Independence, which was essentially a Sepoy mutiny. But do you think that it was just the Enfield rifle issue and just the mixing of cow dust in atta that was the trigger point, or that was the central theme? No, it was a trigger point. It was a contributory factor. There were other issues. Back in the day, nobody could go beyond the rank of a subedar in the British Army. So the Indians could only go to the rank of a subedar, and they were paid less wages, only 7 rupees per month. And within that 7 rupees, you had to look out for the upkeep of your horse and the saddle also. 2 rupees for sepoys. Financial distress. Staying away from family because of misadventures of Lord Lytton and other such lords in Burma, in Malay, in Afghanistan. Unfortunately, a lot of Hindus who were vegetarians, when you go to Afghanistan, they had to eat non-veg food. Plus the British atrocities here in India. Plus the Vernacular Press Act, which was brought down as a clampdown on all the press freedom in India. All of these things taken together became the fodder for enragement, outrage, disillusionment, and disenchantment with the political bosses. And then that Enfield rifle issue and that mixing of bone dust in cow atta and the hanging of Mangal Pandey just became the final step. And you know what is this called as? In political science, it is called as the pressure cooker syndrome. Which syndrome is it called as? It is called as the pressure cooker syndrome. In this pressure cooker syndrome, what happens in a pressure cooker? The steam builds up. And once the steam has built up to the extent that the container can no longer hold it, the whistle gives way to the steam in a violent manner. So protests, why are protests invariably, why do they become violent or why do they become noisy and chaotic? Is because that there has been a lot of suppressed anger, suppressed resentment, and suppressed hopelessness in the society. You talk about the Tiananmen Square issue, you talk about the Euromaidan protests in Ukraine in 2014, you talk about Belarus, you talk about Hungary, you talk about any country, it is the pressure cooker syndrome, including the protests in Hong Kong. So the government, if it stops being receptive, if the political bosses stop being receptive, what typically happens is that people start bottling up that frustration, anger, and resentment within. Today, easily an FIR can be lodged against a student, but the rapists are finding an easy gateway into politics. Don't you think that the masses will be agitated? It is not just a student's issue. It is the final point in the pressure cooker syndrome. It is preceded by E20. It is preceded by corruptions. 2021 also there was a leak in the NEET paper, na? It is not just in 2026. And this is just reported 2021, 2024, and 2026. What is unreported? We don't even know. At the moment, there are 7 to 8 protests going on in India, not just Jantar Mantar. There is one protest going on in Uttarakhand where that Sat Mode wala iconic street forests are being cut over there. Then there is a protest against data centers of Amazon in Vizag and in Mumbai, because data centers are going to guzzle gallons of water, and therefore portable drinking water is going to become an issue for us Indians. Groundwater is getting depleted. Ken Betwa River Interlinking Project, the Adivasis are protesting over there. There's a protest happening for the Car Nicobar project. There's a protest happening when it comes to, one can say, the exams conducted in Bihar. Then there is an E20 ethanol issue. There is an issue of your Prime Minister never holding a press conference. So it is not about taking political sides. It's about just being objective. So when you are objective, remember one thing, that eventually that the more you are suppressed, the higher will be the reaction. Newton's third law of motion perfectly summarizes the pressure cooker syndrome. So this student protest is an outpouring of emotion based on all the other preceding factors. So in the anatomy of protest, we have learned why protest is the final stage of political dissent and why it is considered to be a, one can say, a instrument of democratic means only. We have also learned that politics is a good word. When we say that Abhijit Dipke was funded or there is a political angle to it, good. Then that means there is somebody in the political circles thinking about students. Right? At the same time, when people say, oh, this is a student protest, why are you bringing other issues? Because my life is not just about one exam. My life is about my transport also. My life is about water also. My life is about groundwater also. My life is about peace and stability and security also. My life is about bridges and falling bridges also. That student protest became a symbol for all other protests in India. So it is not, as students of political science, you must learn. It is not about taking political sides or taking political names. It is about understanding three things. What is politics? One. Second, what is political behavior? And third, what is the anatomy of a protest? If you understand these three things, you will elect the leaders. If you support BJP, go ahead, support BJP, but support the right candidates. If you support Congress or AAP or Shiv Sena, support the right candidates. Vote for your local MP and MLA. Don't vote for cults. Don't vote for the aura of invincibility. Don't struggle with identity crisis. Build your identity crisis. Build your identity rather. So these are the three things which we discussed today. Before I end the lecture today, I want to talk about two things. The first is, I told you something about UPSC negatives. What happens to your life when you don't crack the exam? When you don't crack the exam today, do not go for, see, a lot of people say backup hona chahiye, backup. You can choose your own backup. But if AI is taking away your jobs, a lot of people are now enrolling into AI based certification courses, AI coding and all of that. But whatever you are learning in terms of AI, that is going to become obsolete and redundant in the next 3 months. So you are just fooling yourself into a sense of false comfort. Even then you might just lose your job. Even then you might not be eligible for a job. What you need is understanding of AI from a philosophical perspective. What you need is understanding of AI from the perspective of ethics, morality, because that is never going to change. The biggest of the companies today are paying the highest to philosophers, not data analysts and data scientists. Technology, for the first time in human history, is now moving faster than the society itself. So whatever education that society is providing you with respect to the technology, that will become redundant, because algorithms are learning by themselves, AI engines are learning by themselves, LLMs are learning by themselves. They will not require humans. That is the whole point of AI. So why are you learning about technology? Learn about the deployment of technology, the regulatory character, the regulatory framework within which that technology must be deployed, the legislative framework and the regulatory framework. What is the ethical framework within that technology? Should AI be used for defense? To what extent it should be used for defense? So who's getting more salary today? It is not engineers or data scientists, it is philosophers and political scientists. And therefore, I'm most happy to announce to you, because you have sat with me for all these master classes, that this is the only certification based political science course where, when we conduct lectures on AI, when we conduct lectures on data, law and public policy, you will be given a certificate on that. This certificate will be helpful in your job search if at all you don't crack UPSC. And this will prepare the groundwork for any future or further higher studies that you might want to undertake. Where will you get this? And there is at no extra cost. Within the same amount of fees, you will get it. We have 2 certification courses. We are planning for more certification courses for our students. And this is not by Roundtable IAS. This is by Delhi-based think tanks who we have now signed an MOU with. Okay. So I welcome you all again at Roundtable IAS. Open your mind. Learning is not important. Unlearning is important. I can teach you from the books, but you can also learn from the books. You should always judge a teacher if a teacher is able to teach you something beyond the scope of the books. I hope you understand the concepts of Rousseau's free will, invincibility of aura, social contract theory, capability approach given by Dr. Amartya Sen, identity crisis, political stakeholdership model, dissent is the essence of democracy. So many beautiful and so many applicable concepts which can be applied everywhere have been learned today. The question of the day was whether you're a cockroach or not. But that is the most irrelevant question. I don't care if you're a cockroach or not. I don't care if you support the protest or not. What I care about is, do you know the meaning of politics? Do you understand the meaning of protests? And can you use your understanding in a theoretical manner so that your chances at cracking UPSC become much higher, and you can also write a great essay? This is going to be the philosophy going forward in all our lectures at Political Science. When I teach you Plato, when I teach you Aristotle, everything will be discussed from the perspective of Russia-Ukraine crisis, the genocide in Gaza, Ethiopia, Eritrea crisis, India's foreign policy, 86 Constitutional Amendment Act, Indira Jaising case, Keshwananda Bharti case. All the contemporary aspects will be associated and interlinked with concepts. If you feel that you want to have a great learning experience, if you feel that you want your answers to be checked, if you feel that a feedback loop has to be created, then register for our political science course, which is happening from this week, which is starting from this week. I will open up now the forum for any questions which you have. Please feel free to ask any questions. I can see that a lot of students have participated, and well, we don't put our courses on Telegram. If you want courses on Telegram by other institutes, I can share them with you, is what I said. We don't do that is because in our country, there is a false premise that teachers and doctors should not earn money. And that is why education suffers. If you want good education, then there has to be a price which is to be paid. Of course, there can be certain discounts and scholarships, right? My lectures are not relevant for UPSC exam. My lectures are absolutely targeted towards UPSC exam. Okay. And I will promise you one thing though. I'm going to put a lot of free material on YouTube, a lot of free material on our LMS also. Please see, how can you help a teacher? If you think that my work is good, then at least share my lectures. If I grow more on Telegram, or sorry, if I grow more on social media platforms like Instagram and YouTube, then the platforms will pay me. When the platforms pay the teachers, then the teachers are able to provide affordable courses to students also. Therefore, we are providing, see, even if the platforms are not paying us today, we are providing affordable courses to students. But there is a limit to which we can do it, na? We also have families. We also want to earn honorably and respectfully. So try to scale our channel. Try to share it far and wide. Once you do that, once you watch all our lectures, we get traction on social media. Once you do that, we become monetized. Once we become monetized, then if our money, if our revenue is coming from YouTube and Instagram, then we can definitely launch even more affordable courses to students. अभी भी हमने जो सबसे our courses are the most affordable courses. But for how long can we afford this? है ना? You have the option of joining our lectures from this week. I will definitely be, and I have shared my phone number also with all of you. Don't lose hope in the country's system. Okay. An influential career is worth the effort. There are also good civil servants working. No? I told you in this lecture, political vacuum कैसे create हुआ? Because we chose not to be a part of politics and administration. When good people choose not to be a part of bureaucracy and political administration, then that space is obviously going to be monopolized by the criminals or the not so well qualified enough people. Right. So don't lose hope. We saw one man with one book called as Constitution landed in India on 6th of June, just 6th of June. Within 50 days, that man brought an entire government to its knees. On 6th of June, did you, किसी ने सुना भी था? Or what was his name? No. Look at the kind of agitation that he created. And then he went on to say that I don't make me a hero. The Constitution is the hero. As long as the Constitution is there, you all should not lose hope. You all should all try to be bureaucrats. Young, innocent, honest, and sincere students is what the country needs today. It is a country which needs you more than you needing the country. You are bright and young and promising. You will anyways have any good career in any branch possible. So it is the government which needs you more than the other way around. And we saw a live example of that. There are so many forest guards, conservators, climate change activists, right? Social activists who are doing a good job within the government and outside the government. It's just that their news does not come out. See, the kind of news that comes out is basically all about getting TRPs and entertainment. But the real news is not coming out. If you talk about integrity of journalistic standards, or if you talk about journalistic ethic, and if everybody follows that, a lot of people are doing a lot of good job. Their stories will definitely come out. We have a lot of free resources. We have a website. Please go to the website. Our LMS will be active tomorrow. So you can go to the LMS also. You can watch the lectures over there for free. And registration link is also available on the website as well as the LMS. Register because we are starting this week. We are starting on the 28th of July, which is a Tuesday. So I hope to see you on our first lecture on political science on Tuesday, 28th of July. Until the time we meet next, thank you and take care.